Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. By the way, a caller just called in and I think it was all of your books rolled into one and then it exploded. She said Jill Stein's going to help Trump get back in office because she's over at a Palestinian rally trying up something. And I was like, oh, that's all of Malcolm Nance's books and his current Substacks rolled into one.
Oh, my God. And it's all coming true. And, I don't know. I know that Chris had said during the break there that he saw my Substack, my preview for my memoir.
Yeah.
Which is coming out next year. And it's sort of like the world we're living in. It's a little too long. And
it's going on too long.
Way too many dangerous, horrible stories. Which, when you write your memoir, you forget all the bad things that really happened to you, and then you're like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
And everybody wants it cut.
Well,
so
by the way, can I just say how disgusting it is right now for any of us, which I think includes all of us, who's either had an addiction or loved someone who did, that they used Hunter Biden's book against him in this stupid BS trial. So, an addict, which is any addict, as you know, it's a very important part of your journey, to be honest, and, to talk about in the hopes that you'll help others, which is why he wrote the book, and then they use it against him for this BS. Go ahead.
That's horrible. And now they want to put him in prison so he can become an addict again.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, he's already rehabbed himself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he married, raising a young son, clean. Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys know I'm a gun collector.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No one has ever been charged with this, with the exception of people who were caught doing violent crimes, and then it was added as an additional charge after murder and distribution of mass sale of drugs. But no, Hunter Biden, different standard for America, and I look forward to that National Rifle Association lawsuit so that it can go to Clarence Thomas and they can all uphold the Second Amendment for Hunter Biden.
Yep. Oh, and don't get me started that they made Kyle Rittenhouse their hero, killed people, went across state lines and killed people. Hunter Biden has a gun for 11 days that, gets tossed out.
And turned that gun in. If he had never turned that gun in, if he had put it in a locked box, you would never have heard this. They wouldn't have found it. They wouldn't have charged him. And they're right. The justice system now is rigged against that one individual for laws that no one else is being charged with.
Yeah. Let's talk about Gaza because it's so fun. I had Dino Badala yesterday, so that means in the same week I am both a genocide supporter and a Hamas terrorist. Yeah. So
and a Zionist hoodlum.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that goes without saying.
Right.
Okay. But Malcolm, we were saying this latest tragedy this weekend in Gaza just kind of sums up this whole conflict. We're all like, "Yay, 4 hostages, they got them," and then you're like, "Oh." And there's disputes about how many Palestinians were killed. I don't know who I believe. 274. The IDF says 100. A lot of people were killed getting these hostages out. I mean, Chris, I guess you asked the question. We're not experts. I get it that Hamas is there in civilian apartments. They're embedding them in civilians. But is there not a way to do this where less innocent people die? Because the whole world then turns again against Israel, which is...
First off, it's hard trying to explain to civilians what a war is or what a war is. I get this every day on my Twitter feeds. Oh, you support genocide, you support murder. I have fought in this kind of war, but no one has ever fought in an urban war that is the equivalent of fighting from Malibu all the way down to Long Beach. In every inch of it is a 10 and 25 story concrete apartment building. No one has ever fought in an urban environment like this since the Battle of Stalingrad in World War II. So, let me tell you one thing about this. When you go into an area that is fully rife with terrorists, it's fully urban, and you have to fight your way through, and I've seen the video of that rescue That was an insane gun battle that was going on.
Yeah.
Insane. They had people guarding these people. There were terrorists everywhere. The IDF had to flow through and blast their way through. By the way, there was no deception using UN vehicles or anything like that. They came in an unmarked vehicle, and then the 3 brigades or 2 brigades of army came in to support this thing. It's called a war, and it's horrible and it's regrettable. But who took those hostages when? Right? When were they taken? Right. How long were they kept? They were taken 8 months ago from Israel at a music festival. And then they were kept by, in this one instance, by civilians who were, one of them worked for Al Jazeera.
Right.
So it's a horrible thing. This war needs to end. But, I call on everyone to recognize Hamas could end this war with one text message.
Al Jazeera says that he just wrote one article for them. I don't. It's again this whole thing. Like we get this.
Yeah, but
I get it. They were in. I mean,
Noah Agamani said she was kept for 8 months in the house of a rich family.
Yeah.
All right, where she essentially was like one of those Yazidi ISIS slaves, where they kept you in there. What was the purpose of that abduction? What was the reason they wanted her? They were going to sell her as a bargaining chip. Yeah. And the other 120 hostages, maybe as many as 80 of them are dead, were killed during the incident, and they just took their bodies to resell. I'm sorry, it's horrible. This hasn't happened since ISIS invaded Iraq, that you have this level of horrific warfare and hostage taking.
To your point, you probably saw this reporting about the Hamas leader, Sinwar. Called the thousands of civilians killed in Gaza since October 7th necessary sacrifices. This is a Hamas leader. He's been instrumental in tanking ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas. He told Hamas officials in messages, we have the Israelis right where we want them. In one message to Hamas leaders in Doha, he cited civilian losses in other places, saying these are necessary sacrifices. In 1989, he was found guilty of arranging the abduction and murder of 2 Israeli soldiers and 4 Palestinians he accused of being Israeli collaborators. He served 22 years of multiple life sentences before Netanyahu traded him in 2011. Dear God. So Sinwar planned and greenlighted the October 7th attacks. Early messages to ceasefire negotiators show he seemed surprised by the brutality of Hamas's armed wing and other Palestinians and how easily they committed civilian atrocities. Things went out of control, he said in one of his messages, referring to gangs taking civilian women and children as hostages. People got caught up in this, and that shouldn't have happened. What a
Sinwar, let me tell you something right now. That's a lie. When I went to Israel and I went through the captured material that were taken off of the Hamas bodies of the terrorists who attacked, their orders were written. I have copies of their written orders to take hostages. I have copies of their written orders to kill every civilian that they found. None of that was out of control. What was out of control was the counterattack, was that they didn't think that the Israelis would do what they did, which was to wage a war. How they thought mass murdering the largest number of Jews since the Holocaust would get them victory is beyond me. All it's gotten them was ruin. He said that they didn't care. I believe the video said that he lives for the blood, that the fighters live for the blood of the innocent civilians, which is necessary for the waging of revolution. Yeah. This is like people supporting ISIS after they invaded Iraq. I mean, you cannot support a terrorist group.
I mean,
yes, war is regrettable and it's horrible, and I want it to stop. But this war is being waged by people who don't care about the Palestinian children. They don't care about the civilians. They don't care about the bloodshed. They have a fantasy in their head that they are defeating Israel, which is laughable.
No, I mean, it's clear they consider it a PR victory when Palestinians are killed.
But
they can use that.
People's lives are being mass murdered and kidnapped and held for PR.
Yeah. So, Malcolm, is this just completely a pipe dream to think there is any solution for getting hostages and a ceasefire? I mean, I was saying, when you have this far right whacks in the government in Israel who want to wipe Palestinians off the face of the earth, and Hamas that wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, how do you negotiate? How does this ever?
I spent a boatload of time in Israel. Okay, the Israeli people do not support any of the goals that Netanyahu supported.
Right.
All right. No one has ever said if anyone has ever said that they want to wipe out the Palestinian people, those people need to be held to account and brought to trial. The Israelis don't.
Yeah.
The Israelis haven't been saying this for 78 years. But there have been many Arab nations that went to war 4 times with the intent to wipe out that 15 million or the 10 million Jews that live in Israel, plus the 2 million Arabs, plus all the other foreigners who live there in peace. This is not something that is going to happen. The only solution is a negotiated solution. But I will tell you right off the bat, we are not going to hand Islamic State a nation, and they're not going to hand Hamas a nation. Whoever the moderate Palestinians are going to have to bubble to the surface, risk being assassinated by their own people, and sit down at the table. But Sinwar, that guy's a dead man walking. He is a mass murderer on the par of Osama bin Laden, and no one's negotiating with him.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a happy clappy note.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Dang, y'all. I shouldn't have to relitigate, an event that's equivalent to 9/11 and think that we should have to have shawarma with this dude. Yeah. It's just one of those things, people. But hopefully a future two-state solution will emerge with better people than the people that did October 7th.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember when I felt like we were really close with Bill Clinton,
we were.
We were. Good God, if you read the histories, holy cow. They were, all Yasser Arafat had to say was yes, and there would have been a nation there right now.
Yep. Yeah, but BJ, so no good. Okay.
Oh,
did you hear? He got a, okay.
I heard about that.
Yeah. Okay.
I was
Love
in
you.
news for a minute.
Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner wherever you generally get your podcasts.